Let's talk now to Yvonne Lawson. Her son Godwin was fatally stabbed in 2010. Also with us, Chief Superintendent John Sutherland from the Metropolitan Police. And joining us from his constituency in North London, the Conservative MP David Burrows, who helped to campaign for this change in the law. Thank you all of you for coming on the programme. Yvonne, since losing your son, I know you've campaigned really hard for this change, for these new penalties which are introduced tomorrow. What are you thinking on the eve of these punishments coming in?
I'm really excited about the legislation because after Godwin died, I started campaigning about the law and knife crime, and realised that the law seemed quite lenient and it seemed quite soft, and as a result young people felt they could always reoffend again. So I was really keen to work on actually toughening the law so that the law would sit as a deterrent for young people.
What did you think when you heard those young men say, you know, I carried a knife to protect myself because others carry knives?
I felt quite emotional because I just wondered what kind of education that they've had and why they felt like that. And because I found out a few weeks ago that people that actually carry a knife end up being killed by their own knives. So they are putting themselves at risk as well by carrying knives and putting others at risk as well.
Tell us what happened to your son.
In 2010, Godwin came to London from Oxford because that's where he was living. He went to visit his friends as they were walking down the road after an evening night. They got attacked by 4 young men that were wearing balaclavas. They didn't specifically go for Godwin, they started stabbing his friends, and Godwin decided to intervene, and he got stabbed once, and the stab wound just went straight in his heart, and he died within 2 minutes on the street.
How on earth do you cope with that?
It is ongoing pain that you just have to learn to deal with. The pain kind of never goes away. There's so many emotions that just go through you. You're angry, you're frustrated, and you're just basically upset.
Yeah. John Sutherland, what difference will these new penalties make? If you're an adult and you're caught for a second time and you're convicted for possessing a knife, you will go to prison for a minimum of 6 months.
First, just to say it's a real privilege to sit alongside this very brave lady and to hear her story. The new legislation is welcome because knife crime is serious and there needs to be a disincentive. But it's really, really important that we understand that it's only a part of the jigsaw puzzle, that a court sentence alone is not going to address the problem that we're facing. We need to be much more intelligent than that, and to have a much more rounded response that involves engagement with young people, education of young people, as Yvonne has suggested. You know, the simple message that if you carry a knife, the person most likely to be stabbed with it is you. You pick a knife up, you put yourself at more risk than if you left it in the drawer or wherever it is that you found it.
But I don't think if you're the sort of person that is going to carry a knife, that message is not going to resonate with you, is it? With the greatest of respect.
I mean, we heard in the film, people pick up knives for different reasons. And the enforcement role, of which the legislation is a part and of which police officers have the primary responsibility, that is for the men and the young men of violence who pick up knives intending to use them. Some people, in the short term, all they're going to respond to is the intervention of the police, the intervention of the criminal justice system. But behind them are a whole series of young people, impressionable young people, who pick up a knife because they think it's the thing to do, because they are afraid, and we need to recognise that those fears are genuine. Those are the people that we need to target the education and the engagement at. And so the really important message from me, and I speak not just as a police officer but as a Londoner and as a dad, I've got 3 children of my own, it's got to be a combined approach. It can't be just one thing. As others have said before me, this isn't a situation we're just going to arrest our way out of.
Let me bring in David Burrows, who's campaigned for this change in the laws. Hello, for the law. Mr. Burrows, welcome to the programme. I don't know if you managed to hear a little earlier, the crime figures are just out actually. 13% more assaults with knives in the year up to April. This is for England and Wales, it's the British Crime Survey. And offences involving possession of knives has gone up by 10% as well. How do you react to those figures, first of all?
Well, every statistic lies behind it a victim. And that's the issue. This is a law change on behalf of victims like Godwin, and it's a tribute to people like Yvonne, who have fought hard for this. We've done our part in Parliament to do what's just part of the jigsaw that was mentioned, which is to ensure that when people are caught, and this is caught for the second time with a knife, that they know they're going to go to prison. And so, those figures make me realise we need this law. We've also seen in London, about 9 fatalities just over this the new year. So this is a welcome change, and it's about time. It's the minimum that the public expects. They would expect someone carrying a knife, not least carrying a knife for the second time, to expect to go to jail.
But will it work? Will it deter the sort of person that's prepared to carry a knife for a second time? They've already been caught and convicted once. They're prepared to do it again. Sending them to jail for 6 months, will that deter them from carrying a knife a third time?
Well, it's a part of deterrence, it's punishment, and we need to look at other ways to try and prevent them carrying a knife in the first place. But I think it will help. I'm listening to those like the police who are saying when the mandatory sentences came in place in relation to guns, it did have an impact. And we need to send an important message from Parliament, as we've done, and now it's going to be enforced that anyone carrying a knife should expect the law to be tough and for them to go to jail. So it will help, but we need to work a long way before that to stop them carrying a knife in the first place, because we know it's not only the consequences of jail, the consequences, as we heard in your report, is fatal for people, whether they're carrying a knife for their own protection, whether they're part of a gang, one way or the other they could well end up losing their life, and that's the main consequence. But as far as those who want to take the risk of carrying a knife, they know from tomorrow that they're likely to go to jail.
Yvonne, what would you say to anybody who still carries a knife? What would your message be to them?
My message would be don't do it, because you put in your life at risk carrying it, as I said, and you put in others at risk. I think if you do carry a knife, seek help. I think there are lots of organisations that would help you to find out the reasons why you're carrying a knife, and hopefully to prevent you from actually going down in a box like my son did.
Thank you very much for coming on the programme.
Thank you.
Thank you as well, John Sutherland and David Burrows. Thanks for your time, all of you.